Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. We are back again. We are going to touch base on Vermont today. And I'll tell you, Vermont, obviously, is one of these states that has 2-year limits per term. So basically, each term is 2 years. It's kind of silly, but at a time, all of New England used to be like that. In fact, states like Massachusetts used to have 1 year per term. That meant that there would be a gubernatorial race for every year to elect a new governor. That's why we have Massachusetts having over 70 some governors. Of course, that isn't the case now. The Massachusetts government, even though it's not so smart, woke up finally. But then again, you cannot necessarily say the Massachusetts government was that dull back then as it is right now. So let's go ahead. We have some Vermont elections to talk about. The one race that isn't, of course, off year, of course, taken between midterm and presidential years. That is, of course, the Senate race. Bernie Sanders, unsurprisingly, won re-election pretty easily. But I'll tell you, if Mr. Phil Scott ended up running in this election, which I was kind of hoping he would, I would think he would outsuit Bernie Sanders due to his age. Although Bernie Sanders has been widely respected as Vermont as this populist socialist candidate, but obviously he would have set Sanders all the way back. But I want to take a look at his opponent, Gerald Malloy. He ran in some elections in 2022, and I'll tell you, this is probably his best. I think this is obviously his best said performance. Take a look here. Vermont Election Atlas at the 2024 Senator. Okay, so yeah, Franklin County Orleans County. It didn't go for look at this. Technically, Kamala Harris did better than you can't necessarily. Steve Barry, an independent, is taking away votes. I would say he's taking away votes from Sanders. But technically, Trump did better by a little bit compared to Gerald Malloy. Trump carried Franklin County, like we talked about in previous videos ago. You'll see, of course, Malloy easily carried Essex County, a county that ended up going for Sanders in 2018. It stayed with Sanders for a pretty long time, even in 2012, 2006. First time voting Republican in this said seat in 2000, since 2000. So I had a feeling that would be the case. So we were absolutely correct when it comes to that here. Congrats to Gerald Malloy. I think he knew he wasn't going to win, but he, of course, took out a county which formerly voted for independent Bernie Sanders for a very long time, of course. Same results, like comparing to the, you got, of course, some cities like, Pulteney, Vermont. That city ended up going for Trump. I guess they like voting for populists. Looking over here, Canaan ended up going for Sanders aggressively. Not aggressively, it's still underwater. But yeah, Steve Barry does affect things when it comes to that race. So, yes, of course, that is the said election results in said Vermont for the Senate. As for the governor's race, no surprise here. Phil Scott, he is going to win re-election. 73.4% of the popular vote. Was this Governor Scott's best performance, you may ask me? Well, obviously we can check. You'll see he got Essex, he got Franklin, and probably Orleans. Is this Orleans County? This is Franklin. Never mind. Orleans. I keep mixing that up, But yeah, Orleans, Franklin, they're in the 80% calm range. Most of Vermont and central Vermont, 70% going for him. Not one county is going into the 50% range, which is good. You would arguably say that this was his best result. In fact, Esther Charleston, the Democrat nominee, she couldn't even carry one city, which is absolutely shocking, knowing how liberal Vermont is. This shows how progressive Phil Scott is, and how Democrats there just absolutely love him. Yes, you'll see he improved from 2 years ago, 70.9% in Vermont, 68.49% in 2020. So he increases his share over time. 2018, you would say that would be his worst result. Well, it wouldn't be his. He made a great improvement in 2018, 55.19%. So each election he's improving. You'll see. He got in. This is his first election year in 2016. I would say, Scott, he really did campaign on this progressive background here, and that obviously benefits him. And obviously, if Scott were to run for re-election again in 2026, he has not stated if he would. And we got to understand the consequences. If he decides to run, then Vermont's going red. Scott is basically the future of Vermont, really. If Scott runs, guess what? Vermont goes red. If Scott doesn't run, Vermont goes blue, because there's no one else that can keep Vermont red than Phil Scott. There's absolutely no one else. I don't like Phil Scott at all, but I do understand to a point that the way he is right now is part of it is that he wants to remain in power, and part of being governor of Vermont, you have to have progressive values. So of course, and he has to kiss the ring to the establishment. So I don't like Scott, but I do understand why he is being, of course, a big progressive in the state. I would describe him as a Lincoln Republican, that old GOP establishment, 18th, 19th century Republican that dominated Vermont at the time. He's trying to bring that back, and most Vermontians think that's the case. But yes, congratulations to Phil Scott. The Democrats, I think, are done winning cities in Vermont as long as Phil Scott's in the governor's mansion. They do not have a chance. You would say, what's Esther Charleston's best performing city? She didn't win anything, unfortunately. She went home with nothing in the most Democrat state in the country. It's just insane. So we're looking at Esther. Okay, yeah. Marlboro is Miss Charleston's best performing. Is this Marlboro? Yes, Marlboro. That was a Scott +2 city. And I'm taking, wow, this city must be very left wing. Let's see how Marlboro is. This must be Marlboro right up here. Marlboro, 80% for Kamala Harris. 80%, 496 votes to 106 votes. Yeah, knew it was. It's Vermont, it's Vermont. Are you surprised? I'm not. Let's take a look at the United States House of Representatives race. You'll see Becca Balint has won the said re-election. You'll see she took this seat over in 2022. And apparently she's keeping that seat. Of course, blue. What else is it going to be like? But yes, Becca Balint. You'll see 2022. 60%. She improved her performance, although Adam Ortiz is taking some votes away from her. You'll see there are some counties like Franklin and Orleans. They are tilting in the 40% column. This county right here, I think that's Rutland County. That is tilting in the 40% range also. Mark Koester, 29.8%. He also had to align with the Libertarian Party. Of course, that didn't really work so well. I mean, it worked. He almost lost Essex to a point. I mean, look at here. Kanan voted for Balint, Leamington, Balint, Maidstone, but then you got all these cities down on the of the border. So that is the fact there. But yeah, this is what it's looking like. But yeah, this is the board. This is the city. Obviously, let's take a look at Millsboro. Yep, 80%, 78%. Marlboro. Interestingly enough, yes, this is of course Vermont at large congressional district. Let's take a look. Now, the Democratic Party, not represented in the lieutenant governor's race, but they strongly back the progressive candidate. And now I mean progressive. That is actually a progressive party in that said race. The 2024 Vermont election, you'll see. And guess what? Republicans actually, I want to believe, took over in this race. Did we? I don't think there's a winner. Is there a winner? For real. We do not have a winner, and it says vote total certified. Here's the deal. I don't know what's going on, but John Rogers basically won this race. How did he win this race? Well, obviously, he's beating David Zuckerman. He is the incumbent lieutenant governor. He comes from the Progressive Party, very left-wing political party, by the way. Democratic Socialism, Social Democracy, Vermont Progressive Party. He was elected in 2022. And you'll see previous office, this office was occupied by Molly Gray, and apparently lieutenant governor's race isn't really a race that Democrats do well in. Obviously, you have Franklin, you got Orleans, you got Rutland over here. They're voting Republican. So interestingly enough, this is not really the best performance, and surprisingly enough, we got our results here. Yes, it says here, former Republican Senator John Rogers defeated incumbent progressive lieutenant governor David Zuckerman, who was running for re-election to a fourth non-consecutive term in office. Zuckerman conceded to Rogers on November 7th, but suggested that the legislature could overturn the results of the election. Oh my gosh! Are you serious? Oh my gosh! Obviously. But he conceded, right? No. Well, I mean, this isn't, I mean, maybe they could, but this is telling you guys, far left Vermont. They go boo-hoo, whining and crying, oh, Trump won't recognize the election results. He's trying to overturn democracy. And all these people, these old boomers that smoke pot and weed in Vermont, go and they go, oh, Trump, I never got to grow up in this sort of threat to democracy. As they smoke their marijuana, I never got to grow up in this. This is so new and scary to our kids. And then you have your government that you so long support suggesting that they could overturn the result to, of course, support the establishment. It's just hypocritical, and you know how it works. This is not a surprise. This is absolutely not a surprise. And now that I'm looking at it, it actually looks like there will be a contingent election on January 3rd, 2025. Wow. Wow! Oh my gosh! For real? For real? Guys, I am bewildered. What the heck? Let's just take a look here. Yeah, Zuckerman conceded. but suggested that the legislature could overturn the results of the election as the Constitution allows lawmakers to vote to install any of the top 3 vote getters in an election where no candidate reaches 50% of the vote. This is unlikely, however, as the last time the legislature declined to ratify the voters' choice was in the 1976 Vermont lieutenant gubernatorial election. So, apparently there will be a contingent election, it looks like, on January 3rd. Are they doing a rematch? What does that mean? You got to do some research on this. This is getting interesting. Vermont contingent election, January 3rd. Yeah, this is 2025. Had to double check. But yeah, this is obviously the fact that we're doing a rematch here, guys. Yeah, you'll see elected lieutenant governor to be determined. Results, of course. Rogers received a plurality of the vote. Yeah, it's supposed to be safe dem. Oh, work. Sabuto's crystal ball. Need update. Okay, received a plurality of votes of the vote over Zuckerman because the Constitution requires a majority vote for or election. I guess now this is really sinking in. I guess it makes sense. But you get what I'm saying. If this was the other way around, Democrats would be kicking and screaming, right? Would they not? Would they not? So apparently, John Rogers is technically the winner, but then again, there will be another election. We'll be talking about that election for sure. But it says here that election is less than a month away because the Vermont Constitution requires a vote. Yep. So it says yes, because the Constitution of Vermont requires majority of the vote for election as lieutenant governor, the Vermont General Assembly will vote in January 2025 to determine the winner. Zuckerman conceded the popular election on November 7th, 2024, but has not declared whether he will contest the January legislative election. Although the General Assembly has always voted to ratify the winner of the popular vote since 1976, Diamondstone has urged the General Assembly to elect Zuckerman on the grounds. So I guess this is okay, never mind. We won't be doing this because this is going to be legislative. This will be in the Vermont General Assembly. They will be electing the lieutenant governor. And the reason why is because the results under 50%. Okay, this makes more sense now. No rematch, no recount, no runoff, as it was making it sound. Nope, it's just going to go to the legislature, which will be voted on the 5th or the 3rd. Is it the 3rd? Yeah, the 5th. No, the 3rd of January. Okay, this makes sense. And hey, guess what? Month from today. It's been officially a month since Election Day. Interestingly enough. But yeah, this video is going long. We just had the lieutenant governor drama, but it looks like very possible. But you know how the Vermont legislature is, guys? It's ultra woke. Ultra woke! So do you think John Rogers will get through with this? I don't know. I honestly do not know. Will the legislature respect the outcome of this election? Vermontians wanted a Republican this time. Probably John Rogers is probably woke. Just saying. Or do they want to stick with their far left lunacy that is definitely not pro-democracy? So, interesting stuff. In regards to Vermont. Never knew Vermont could be this interesting. All right. Yes. No, of course, lieutenant governor's race unclear. The New York Times is not recognizing it. But technically, Rogers did win this election. 100% of the vote in. This is going to the said legislature. So the attorney general's race here, you'll see Charity Clark has won re-election. Of course, same Democrat result, landslide, yada, yada, yada. This is, of course, the attorney general's race. Let's go ahead and look at the attorney general. Yeah, Charity Clark here. Obviously. Another underperformance. You'll see Republicans took over this county. This county is actually Caledonia County. Keep getting them mixed up with Essex, but Caledonia County, along with Orleans, Franklin, Rutland counties. They ended up going for her opponent, Tour Nelson. You'll see. Results, I'm telling you, Franklin is going more right. It's going to become the second Essex County, but it's trending more right, as we can clearly see. But, yeah, obvious from there. Safe Democrat, Charity Clark, 57.82% of the popular vote, a Democrat hold. Obviously, no surprise, other than Rutland. 2022, you'll see, she did good carrying these same results. She underperformed massively, though. Massively. She underperformed she underperformed 8 points from 2 years ago. Amazing. 2 years, and Vermontans are already turning on you. Now, again, Vermont trended aggressively to the right this election cycle. I'm not saying Vermont is going to is saying now they're still going to vote for Democrats. They're still invading for insane lunatics. But have they woken up to a point? I think they have. But take a look at these results. Charity Clark, the winner of that election. You got the auditor race, and I think this is interesting. Let's take a look at the auditor's race. So if you guys are unaware, you got one person named H. Brooke Page. He actually ran in 2 elections. I mentioned in North Carolina, we talked about Jessica Holmes. I thought she ran in 2 races. No, that's not the case. In Vermont, apparently, you can run in 2 separate races in the same year. Isn't that crazy? I mean, Joe Biden ran for senator in 2008 while running for vice president in 2008. Apparently this has happened in the presidential level. But yes, Page, once again, was the nominee. No, he wasn't the nominee in that race. But he did the same thing in 2022 where he ran in 2 separate races. But yes, Page ended up running in the Secretary of State election, in which he did way better in. But let's take a look at his auditors. Actually, no, this is state. Yeah, auditor, same result. And I think Page has improved because I think 1 point he only carried Essex. But yeah, Vermont slowly turning red. You're probably going to see Orleans and Rutland, which makes me think, how did those counties... Rutland, 51% for Kamala Harris. Yeah, Franklin almost going red, but it was close. Absolutely. But yes. Anyway, the winner of that race, Doug Hoffer. He is being reelected. He will be reelected. Obviously, good results here. Look at that. You actually have some country over here going red. Goodness gracious. Although this is very rare to see. You have equivalently some towns going red here. But yes, H. Brooke Page, although he performed very impressively, Doug Hoffer underperformed the state level, 55.60%. In 2022, he won 61.21%. A huge underperformance, and yet again, another embarrassment for Democrats in their blue state of Vermont. Let's take a look at the Secretary of State race. You'll see Sarah Copeland Hanses, 59.6%, against H. Brooke Page, who ran in this election also, winning the exact same counties that he carried in the auditor's race. Interestingly enough, same kind of results here. You see, oh, I want this guy for Secretary of State. Oh, I want him for auditor too. People know that he's likely to lose, seeing this is how Vermont goes. But you know what? I think Brooke Page, knowing he would lose anyway, won a victory in this election, seeing that he had forcing his opponents to underperform their records. Copeland Hanses, 61.34%. Yeah, you'll see Brooke Page. He got only carried, of course, the county of Essex that time. But congratulations to Mr. Page. He absolutely crushed it in that election. I'll give him credit for that. Okay. What else? Are we missing anything? Lieutenant Governor, Auditor, Secretary of State, the Treasurer's race, of course. Pakiak. Okay, the Treasurer. It's down here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Mike Pakiak is the winner, as we knew he would. 56.62% of the popular vote, though, against Joshua Betchauer, whatever that name is. 2022, he had performed 62.53% against Brooke Page. As you know, he was running in that race also, Essex County. So he really did gain tons of ground in this election. So yes, he got Joshua Betchhofer. He gained Northern Vermont, Rutland County. So obviously good results when it comes to that. But looking at this said result, pretty good. Well, underperformance, of course, 62 to 56%. That's a big underperformance. You thought, oh, you'd perform better, but apparently with being a presidential year. So I would say, yeah, some Vermontians like Trump. I mean, hey, you know what? The state voted for Nikki Haley in the Republican primary. But some of them do. Well, I guess those voters came out and vocalized their support for Trump. But apparently this is our result here. We have no other said results when it comes to the 2024 election in Vermont. There's no Supreme Court races. But anyway, what do you guys think in regards to our video? Let me know down below. And as always, I will see you all in the next political episode.